live. It's live. However you need to do it, friend.
So we're live.
We're live right now, weatherman.
The weather outside is right.
Man. I mean, you're, hey, it looks like our reception's terrible.
Randy Everett and Christy Davidson are on.
Hey. Hey,
Sam Swifty is on.
That thing.
Man, that old guy.
Swifty.
Oh,
Hey, thank you everybody for getting on here. Hey, we got people.
You got 6 people?
6. Hey, that ain't.
Is on Tommy Davidson?
Yeah.
It's on both of them.
Is it turned? I mean,
Okay, hold on.
I'm looking like I'm sideways.
Go first and we'll take your question.
Oh man. Okay, the anxiety attack.
Yeah.
The
We
screen
are
sideways.
sideways.
Okay, well, you're live on this screen.
We're live, I'm watching
Yeah, but the phone is messing. I mean, I'm having problems out of the phone. Hey, you're in.
Thomas Love wants to go to lunch with you, Tommy.
Hey, I'm ready, Tom Love. If we can get this figured out.
Sally, can you hold the phone for a second? I'm going to go get a steam.
So, is it not?
You're good. Just you keep going.
You keep
Cousin Charlie, do you mind doing this?
I got
Okay, it's Wednesday, 1 o'clock. That means it's time for Real Estate 101. We are in a live studio audience today.
with the thousands of viewers.
Thousands.
I think it's like 998 seats we have in here.
Tom Love, I do want to go to lunch. Matt Sledge, why don't you come up here and look at this GMC and you tell me what you'd be willing to pay for it.
Oh no!
I do want to sell it.
Oh,
We're not selling the white ghost.
I got to pay for a roof.
Oh, we're gonna fix up the white ghost. We're gonna put
We're going to have to move that table way up, though.
Yeah.
So, Cousin Charlie.
Man.
All
How much
right.
you selling the GMC
I don't
for?
know. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure.
I'll give you
Hey, can everybody
$1,000
hear
for
me? I apologize. $1,000. Come up here, Matt, and tell me if you think it's worth $1,000.
I'm gonna give $1,000. Don't waste your gas, man. I'll give you $5 for gas.
You know, I don't have a title for it.
Look,
I've got to find
Sledge
a title.
put $1,000.
$1,000.
Yeah.
All right, hey, let's get on track. Anybody that wants a vehicle, you can come up here and you can tell me
I'll tell you how
what
to
you
get
would
the
pay.
title easy. Really.
What do you think that truck's worth? $1,500.
We'll talk off the air.
We'll talk off the air. Okay, hey, it's 1 o'clock, 1:02. I'm very anal about getting started on time. I apologize. But I'm back in studio with my sidekick, a.k.a. the Weatherman. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people here today. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Today, what we're going to talk about is when should you start packing up your home after it's under contract. But before we get started, I'm going to turn it over to my sidekick, who has a few special announcements.
I do. Hey, so this week we got a special, we like to call them, there are, how's the best way to say it? They're family to us. So they're co-sponsors, but they're our family. But this week, who we're going to highlight is we're going to highlight the exchange.
Ooh.
And guys, I want to tell you what, I've done some shopping there, and yes, I do shop for my wife and Miss Brittany Renee, which is Miss GTT, has some fantastic clothes at a great price, but she has such a cool shop downtown, right off the square. So guys, go see Brittany Renee at the Exchange Boutique, and I promise you won't be disappointed. Wonderful, wonderful clothes. My wife has several outfits from that place. I wonder if they got a credit card. They need some. Y'all got layaway?
I think we do layaway. What else do we do? So today, hey, fire your question at us. So we're going to play the scenario. But before I get started, please like. I want to see some likes. If you want to hit some hate, I want to see some hate.
Ooh, Kira Sloan. Never pack it.
If you would share it, I'd greatly appreciate it. If you share our stream, you're going to a drawing for a dinner at the Alley on Main. The Alley on Main is my favorite. It's my favorite. My buddy Scott Lumley's on here. I appreciate you getting on here, buddy. So,
Well. Kira Sloan.
Kira never packed someone. I didn't see what she said. Okay, so let's play out the scenario. Whenever you're first off, Tiffany said the right thing. You do need to you need to declutter before you ever list your home. But we've had some situations where we're coming down to the last minute or past the last minute, and we have not closed.
Let's just be specific. Charlie had an issue.
Charlie dropped the ball.
Let's just be specific. Let's just be
I'm
specific.
just kidding, Cousin Charlie. You did not drop the ball.
Yeah.
But a lot of times things just happen, and we always naturally want to blame somebody. We want to figure things out. But whenever you're putting a closing date, out there, it really is a moving target.
Yeah, oh yeah.
We hope it happens, but there's no guarantee. So there has to be a lot of confidence that everything's going to move. You know, like when we're driving down the interstate. Jay Cash, our favorite auctioneer. When you're driving down the interstate or whenever you're driving down the road, you've got confidence that other people are not going to hit you.
Right.
You've got confidence people are going to stop at the stop signs. They're going to stop at red lights. So you just move forward with your life. Well, we got to be the same way whenever we're selling our home and we're closing in 2 days. You got to figure out a way to get your stuff out there, having confidence that the person buying your home is going to have no problems. They're going to move forward and they're going to buy your homes. But what happens if they don't? What happens if there is an extension? What happens if something unforeseen happens and the loan is delayed?
Right.
So,
a lot of moving targets. Like you said, there's a lot of things that have to go into place in order for everything to go. You got appraisal issues. You got the final underwriting. You got the CD that has to be out in 3 days. So they're right at the last minute. They ask for what was this check wrote to J.C. Penney for? So there's just so many things that it could create havoc at the last minute.
So Weatherman's bringing up some good points. Most of us, if we were to buy a home, we're going to get a loan. We're not going to pay cash. We're going to sit down with a loan officer and we're going to tell them our story.
Yep.
We're going to tell them our social security number. We're going to tell them where we work. We're going to tell them our income. We're going to tell them our debts, and then it's going to be verified on a credit report.
Yep.
And then the loan officer is going to run this through a system
Called
the GUS. It's the automated underwriting system.
Called
and
GUS.
It's called GUS. And if it gives an approval, you get a pre-approval letter.
Yay!
Which don't mean shit. Pardon my language back there, people. I'm sorry that slipped out. It does not mean anything whenever you get a pre-approval letter.
Right.
It really doesn't.
Right.
Because none of it has actually been through the internal affairs department.
The verification of employment, to make sure that you make this amount of money, yada, yada, yada.
So none of that stuff is done until
the last minute.
It's done when the file is complete. That's what's so hard about the mortgage system is you send in your information, it's pre-approved on a piece of paper, but there's not really much of a guarantee there. But it just makes
like
us,
this piece of paper.
yeah, it makes us feel better if it's like with a Belinda Arender at Iberia Bank. But it still has to go through an underwriting process that could take 48 hours. Then they're going to look, and they're going to do some fact checking. They're going to look at things, and then they might find out something was left off their credit report. I didn't know you had a judgment.
I didn't know you co-signed for your ex-wife.
I didn't know that you were paying child support. It wasn't showing on here. So, a lot of this stuff is not brought up until the very last minute. And that's when it gets extremely
tricky,
stressful. Cousin Charlie, do you have any questions? For you. Hey, you and Swifty back there. Because you're our new kids on the block.
So here's a couple things. Let's throw a couple scenarios out there because Tiffany Thompson Snyder asked for. So this makes a perfect sense. So let's just say you qualify for a loan, and what most people do is if you qualify for 205, you buy a 207 house. As bad as I hate to say that, that's the scenario. You max that bad boy out. And so then what happens is we get all the way up here to the final end, and guess what? We need homeowners insurance. And then that homeowners insurance comes in about $50 too much. And then guess what happens?
We got a problem.
We got a problem. But you know the bigger problem is, my lady buying that house has already had the other people got their whole U-Hauls packed full of stuff. They've moved out, they've cleaned it, they've cleaned the baseboards, they've cleaned out the refrigerator, they've moved on to bigger and better things, and boom, here's a scenario. What do we do about that, GTT?
Well, we've got to identify the problem and then see if we can solve the problem. And not every one of these problems, because of the bank regulations, sometimes there is no solution. Then you've got a seller who, of course, is going to be mad. They're going to want to know, well, why are we just now finding out? That is the first question that probably comes up in this is, why are we just now finding out that we had something that was supposed to close on Tuesday and we found out what day? Monday?
Monday.
We found out Monday that it was not going to close. And imagine the thoughts that go through people's mind whenever they find out we've got to be out of our house and into this house, and now we're not closing. Creates a lot of chaos.
Yes.
Creates a lot of doubt. A lot of uncertainty comes in then into your mind, and then the next thing you're imagining all these crazy scenarios. So the process gets extremely challenging, because a lot of trust is gone now, because we all thought we're closing on this date. Now we're not. Now we've got all these crazy emotions that it's hard to put back into place.
Right.
So that's why I feel like it's so important to make sure you're dealing with people that you know that you can trust. Like when a Belinda says, I got this deal, I can get this done. Makes you feel a lot better.
But this is what we're talking about is a very common scenario. There's not a 100% guarantee unless it's all cash. So when an underwriter gets these files, you just never know. So and a lot of times, as bad as I hate to say it, it happens toward the end, and that's one of the most stressful times, because you're packing, you're moving, the kids are fighting, they can't find their toys, you're a nervous wreck because you just bought a bigger house, so emotions are all over the board. And then really, as a professional, as a real estate agents, is we have to do the professional thing and say, hey, this happens at time to time, let's address the situation, let's do the very best we can with it. Let's make this as easy, as less painful as possible, and find a solution to it. Because most of the time, and I'm chief center, I want to fight for my folks. I want to box for my folks. When my folks don't get to close on time, I'm hating.
Well, a lot of salespeople have a people pleasing quality about them.
Yeah.
And we sense they're unhappy. Now we're worried they're mad at us. And a lot of agents during this time don't want to deal with them, and they kind of go into neglect, and they don't know what's going on, which makes everything worse. Roy Frazier, hey, our guy, our preferred...
My guy. I just switched over myself.
Our preferred insurance guy says this: make sure you contact your insurance agent if you vacate your house for an extended period of time, as it may jeopardize your coverage. Also, let your agent know if you allow the buyer to move in before closing.
Ooh, that's a big one.
That's a whole different show topic that we could do about why you should never let somebody move in until they close on the home, because so many things could pop up. So many scenarios could turn a bad situation into a much, much worse.
And Jay Cat said, what would GTT say to a seller if it doesn't close on time and they have moved out? What would you tell your seller? Hey, guy.
Well, the situation we have, Jay, the guy, he wanted to go ahead and close on his next home.
Right.
And move into that home. And I told him, I gave him worst case scenario, because this particular file it was cleared through the bank, but it had to go through another approval of rural development. And what if they were to go, or what if that loan was denied and you bought this house? So I told him, look, do not turn this situation, I know it's very inconvenient, but don't make it worse by making potentially another larger mistake. So realistically, I would not start getting out of my house. Here's what I would tell every seller to do. I would tell every seller out there, always ask for 2 days post-possession after you close.
Now that's coming from a listing agent. Now let me tell you on the buyer's agent side, that don't happen very often. Because guess where the buyer ain't got nowhere to go? They don't have anywhere to go. So you're giving them 2 days. You own the property, and now that you just gotta just twiddle your thumb for 2 days so they move out. So sometimes it's you can get to the end of the day, which makes it pretty convenient. And we have seen now with negotiations being stronger on certain price point houses getting a couple days. But for the most part, chances are somebody has to be out the same way that they have to be out. And you have 2 or 3 deals contingent upon that sale. And that's what makes it tough.
Hey, I appreciate all the comments, the likes. Please share the stream. If you share the stream, one of you will get a dinner at the Alley on Main. If you haven't shared, I would greatly appreciate it if you would.
You know what I figured out, and I watched Charlie do this very well. And Charlie don't even know I was training him. He don't even know I was training him. But what I've watched Charlie do, and I've watched Lisa do, and Lisa don't even know I was training her. You may not even know I was training you. But hey, at the end of the day, what we have done is we've owned up to it, we've took ownership of it, and we've just addressed the situation. And like you said, well, a lot of times people don't want to do that. Hey, we all make mistakes in life. Things happen. You know, certain times things happen. So it's a lot better to pick the phone up and say, hey, I hate to have to tell you this, but for some reason there's a system down. It doesn't look like it's going to make it today. It's going to be very inconvenient. But just know that we're over here fighting for you to get this thing done as fast and as quick as possible as we can.
Why do you feel like, because agents have to look at themselves as, we're the
heroes.
We're the middle people. Can't say middle man, because it could be a man or a woman. We're the middle people.
Right.
We are the professional. We get so afraid to deliver bad news, even though sometimes it is bad news.
Yeah. Most people, as far as for my and me personally, I deal with this, and this just turned into a Dr. Phil moment, but most salespeople have insecurity issues. And there's a lot of your great salespeople are insecure. You know, and that's not saying anything bad. There's a lot of great salespeople out there that aren't. And so what I mean by that is we're always wanting to please people, to get those pat on the backs, to go that extra mile, to make people appreciate us more, to make us feel better about ourselves.
Let me ask you this though: are you doing the client a good job if you're trying to please them in the situation?
No.
You really got to just tell them, where are you going, Kathleen?
Fixing the website.
Hey, I like it when you're right here by us. I miss you. I miss you when you're right here. So a lot of times we do try to sugarcoat it a little bit, make it not sound as bad as it is. But really what we want to know is the truth.
Yeah.
What are you laughing at, Cousin Charlie?
I'm going to come up there and send that
Come on.
to you.
Cousin Charlie, come up here. Do you have a question? You've been in this business now since August. You're doing a great job.
Scott Lundy, amen, my
adversity has given me my diversity. Hey, that's a sharp guy right there.
That's a sharp answer.
Well, he's a sharp dude, very sharp. Hey, do you have any questions or scenarios or questions?
I think one thing I've learned is you can't be afraid to call it bad news. It's not always positive, but you know what? The longer you put it off, probably the worse it's going to get.
Yeah.
There can't be no delay when it comes to bad news. Because if they were to call you, let's just say I had bad news and I'm dreading it, and then you call me and I'm like, man, I got some bad news to tell you. You're going to be mad that you heard the bad news, but you're going to be even more mad you had to call me to get the bad news. I believe you need to get out ahead of the bad news and go ahead and say, man, I got some bad news. Hey, how can we say it? Here's how I think if you're an agent, you should tell your client, hey, I've got some terrible news. I don't know if you can live with it.
Yeah.
I don't know how you're going to live with it. We've done that before, and then we tell them, and they're like, well, that ain't that bad of news. If you tell them, hey, man, this ain't that bad,
right,
then they overreact.
But what we like to do is we like to take our newest person that's on our team, and that's their job. They get to deliver all the bad news.
How many black eyes has Charlie got?
Several. Jay Cass said, what do you advise a buyer's agent to say to a listing agent when they learn it ain't going to close? Woo!
Well, first off, I would exhaust all. Whenever there's a problem, I do believe the agent needs to go ahead and tell, because it's a cooperative.
Yeah.
You need to go ahead and tell the listing agent, man, I'm unsure here. Can you give me a little time to try to solve the problem? Maybe sometimes, like Cousin Charlie, we had somebody, they're ready to kind of throw in the towel. Maybe we've solved the problem. I don't know. But sometimes maybe together you can solve a problem because you're not aware of what the other side may do to help out. So I think you need to go ahead and tell the other agent, look, a problem has come up. Can you give me 24 hours to see if I can get this resolved? Builds trust. We're working together. I can trust. He's going to tell me if there's bad news. The moment you know it's over and there is absolutely no way you can resolve it, you need to go ahead and just tell them.
Go ahead and fess up. Pony up.
Because it's hurting them even more on the other side as the seller. They're still committed to somebody that cannot perform. They need to go ahead and try to find their new match.
And we had this happen a file about a month ago that we got all the way up to the end, and we just kept fighting it. And really, I feel like if we would have known up front, that, hey, this probably not going to make it, then we wouldn't have got as far. We would have, luckily we did sell it and it closed in 14 days, but that was a very rare scenario.
We've had to deliver news saying you're not going to close.
And that's not a very fun thing to say.
Think about how that feels, and how do you say something where these people built their house from scratch, and then they find out right before this is not going to happen. I mean, how do you say that and feel good? I mean, it's terrible. It's terrible to tell them. I mean, there's.
And you can pre-warn everybody. You can have all the discussions up front. Hey, these are the scenarios. We're trying to do a triple closing. The chances of it working out, there could be some issues. There could be some delays. And so, but it still doesn't take away from the fact. It doesn't take away from the fact of you have to deliver the news. Don't push it off. Just go ahead. Luckily, we have, at least in our office, it is very monotone.
She's the greatest.
That can deliver those.
She's the greatest.
Can deliver news, and I firmly believe if you need to have somebody that delivers that news, have them where they're not emotionally attached, and that they can kind of talk to you in a non-emotional way. Because if I'm your agent, I'm your guy. I'm your representative. A lot of times, hey, I'm in the fight with you. I'm in the trenches with you. So it works out great for our transaction coordinator to step in and say, hey, here's our dilemma. Here's where we are. And then this is where we go. Because, a lot of times I'll get heated. Because, that's my job, is to kind of support my client. But Lisa does such a fantastic job with delivering that news better than I could deliver. Because sometimes my delivery may not be the right way.
Tiffany said honesty and clear communication is important. It is very important. Hey, will you bring me a water, Cousin Charlie? I don't need
Myron Davis.
I heard you coughing up there.
Hey, Ryan Denny's on here.
Hey, Ryan Denny. Hey, he had a little problem before he
stuff through his ceiling looked like, didn't it?
Looked like somebody tried to come down on the main floor. But so where this gets really problematic is if you're selling a house and you're buying a house, you live in this house, now you're waiting on this person to buy and close on your house. Just because you get a contract does not mean it's over. Right. I would say in this type of environment, once you get through all the contingencies of an appraisal, a home inspection, more than likely everything's going to fall in order. We've got confidence.
Sure.
But I remember in 2009, people were losing their job the week of closings. I mean, so There's a financing contingency on just about every single contract, and that financing contingency, it's till the very end. Now, here's something else. If you're thinking about selling a house, earnest money matters a lot more than I used to think, because earnest money is your protection after the contingencies are done. So if you are selling your house and somebody's put up $500 in earnest money, what do they have to lose if they decide at the last day, I ain't buying that house? Right. I don't care about buying this house. So I would negotiate a lot more earnest money. If I would negotiate as much as I can, because remember, it's your protection after the contingencies have been met or marked off.
And remember, earnest money is what earnest money does is the more earnest money, it gets that cold feet scenario out the door. And so that means somebody just can't, exactly right. Somebody just can't walk up and say, hey, man, just let them have the $500. I've changed my mind. Now, they're always going to be protected by appraisal contingencies unless they waive those, financial contingencies. But if you do get a higher amount of earnest money, a lot of times it does tie them to the file closer. Because I'm going to tell you, people are very excited when they first write a contract up, and then you go through this phase. And so you have 30 to 40 days that you're in this phase of all these different emotions. And one of those emotions is, did I buy the wrong house?
Think about this. How many times have you made a decision and you feel the same 30 to 45 days later? How many times have you, think about that. I mean, most of the time right now, people feel good about what they're doing because they don't fear loss of their job. They, a lot of things make them feel better, but I've been in times where it's a lot more uncertainty. Feelings change. Yeah. Second guessing, did I buy the wrong house? Right now, their greatest fear is, did I pay too much?
Yes.
So, honestly, I don't think sellers understand exactly what goes through the buyer's mind. Mm-hmm. Hey, there may be times where they're still unsure if they're buying that house the week of.
Oh, right.
Everybody feels like they can just back out. So that's why you need to have checks and balances in place. And I think it should start, the best thing you can do is negotiate the most earnest money that you can up front. I would look at who their lender is, and I'm a big believer in local lenders like Belinda Erringer. I would carefully make sure they've got home inspections within a certain time. We don't want to go over 14 days. We want to make sure the appraisal gets ordered. We want to make sure that they're moving forward in a manner in which they should. If we're ever seeing them not do, like if the appraisal's not ordered pretty soon, that's a red flag around here. If the earnest money hadn't been delivered on time, that's a red flag.
A lot of times I've been seeing here lately that in the part of the counter of the contract is appraisal is to be ordered within 72 hours. You know, because the appraisals are behind, and then so what happens is a lot of times you don't get that appraisal till a week before. Maybe 3 or 4 days before you close or whatever.
And while that's important, is that contingency hanging around there, that creates uncertainty about the deal. What if it comes in low? Mm-hmm. Also, it gives them ways out. You want to get through the contingency periods as quickly as possible. So to answer the question, I don't feel good about moving somebody out of a house until I'm certain that it's closing.
Yeah.
Well, how much certainty do you have a week before? You've got more certainty than you did 2 weeks before. You know, the closer you get to it. Lisa, when does that closing disclosure go out?
I usually get it 3 days. Some days I don't get it until the day of.
Mm.
Okay, so what we do on our side, even on the listing side, we are calling the mortgage company to get more certainty on how this is moving forward. Right. So I really wouldn't start packing my house up until probably a day or maybe 3 days.
If you've got a client that's using a moving company and you're paying them to both pack and move your stuff, when do you tell them to line that up? Because some of those moving companies are scheduling a month out to keep their business going. Are you telling them to schedule that for a closing date? Or
well, the problem with that is always remember that closing dates are fluid.
Right.
And it gets people very upset what it does is it puts you in a position to commit to something. Then you get to that time period and you've got a decision to make. Hey, do I want to go ahead and do this with the uncertainty of this home closing? So you're trying to find ways to to not be inconvenienced. You want to be as convenient as possible through this process. That's why you're hiring a moving company. But what if the closing gets pushed back? Then you got to call the moving company, and they're like, "Man, we can't get there. We don't have any availability." So, excuse me, we're going to have to shut it down shortly because of my voice.
But most of the time, a lot of times you don't realize there's so many things that you have to try to line up for closing. Most of the time, there's multiple houses closing at the same time. There's multiple people trying to take off work at the same time. There's multiple people trying to move at the same time. You have utilities have to be cut on and cut off at the same time. You have different schools. You have kids in school. So there's so many things going on that you're just overwhelmed. And when all of a sudden you get hit out of the blue, it just causes mad chaos.
Mm-hmm. And you brought up something I want to say. If I'm a seller, I'm not turning those utilities off until after I close.
I agree.
Actually, I want to have them let the buyer transfer them into their names. Sellers can get very arrogant and say, "Well, I'm going to go ahead and get them turned off." But what they don't realize is, hey, these people have not bought your house yet.
That's right.
So if they've got $500 earnest money, and it's kind of arrogant to say, "Hey, I'm cutting these off." If I'm a seller, I'm still appeasing that buyer until it's over.
Right. Not to mention, what happens if you leave something on, the water on, and you didn't know it, you cut the water off. Or let's just say you unhooked the washing machine.
Mm-hmm.
And when they cut the water on, it flooded out the house. And so,
we always talked about that before.
Yeah, man.
I don't know what happens in that situation.
Well, we had that happen.
Hey, our boy Blair Braswell.
there
Hey,
you
hey.
The townhouse.
go. Did it really? That's right,
Yes,
sure
they
did.
took the washing machine and the power
So,
had already been turned off.
We'll go ahead and wrap this up.
And turned it back on. It
So
flooded the
I don't
house, so
start
they
coughing.
moved it in.
Hey, are you
Wow.
worried about me and my cough this size of it?
We gotta hold you for straight from the gut tomorrow then.
That's right. So here's what I'm saying. I would not start packing up my house until I thought that closing disclosure went out. But the thing I would do is I would try to get as much earnest money as I could. I would want to see.
How much would you like to have? I'll give you what I've always been told. You tell me. I like what you. I want to hear your answer.
I think 2% would be a number I'd shoot for.
I like it. I've always heard 3.5. If you're gonna do FHA, you got to bring it. You got to bring it 30 days anyway.
But sometimes I feel like you can over-negotiate to where you ask for so much, and the people are like, "Well, I ain't giving you that much." But
Yeah.
I feel like on a $200,000 house, I'd want $4,000 to $5,000.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And there's only one reason why you wouldn't do it if you're buying it, because you ain't 100% sure you don't buy it. That's the only reason why you wouldn't do it.
Exactly right.
So, what did you say, Swifty?
Nathan said James Peeler.
Our boy
Our buddy
Peeler.
Peeler's
So,
back.
hey, first thing, you're selling your house. It matters how much earnest money. It matters who your lender is. That's why we want Belinda Andrews' name on that pre-qual.
Yes.
We want to execute these contingencies as quickly as possible. We want to have a working relationship with the lender. We want to call, be nice. We want to encourage, hey, if there's any problems, let us know. And then once we're about 3 days from closing is when I feel confident about, hey, you can start the move out process. But what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to get a 48-hour post-possession.
Yeah.
Where that means that we're going to close and I still have 48 hours to get out. Now, it's a negotiation. The buyer may or may not do that, but that's what I would try to do. So, hey, Weatherman, you can go ahead and shut us off because I can't hardly say
The other
anything.
thing to remember on our last thing is always know that there's only one perfect thing in this world, and things do happen. And so when things come up, a lot of the rest of the situation depends on how your emotion and how your attitude goes into that situation. And so if you go into it with a positive attitude, most of the time it comes out positive. We had a situation this week we thought was going to be a little bit tricky, End up it happened a little bit faster than we thought. Everybody's going to be happy here in a couple hours, and we got the deal done. You know, and it worked out great because we had all sides working together to make this thing work. But guys, tune in tomorrow night for Brittany Renee's show, Straight from the Gut. What's she talking about?
I will release a topic tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
We might talk about the rules of going on vacation
Oh,
with 8 people.
with 8 people, yeah, hey.
So, we might talk about that.
Well, hey, I'm gonna get us out of here because my guy over here can't talk. Guys, try to make somebody smile today. We appreciate you tuning in, and as always, we can't do this without you. Thank you so much. Have a great day, and we'll see you soon.
We'll see you soon. Thank you, Kathleen. You're the greatest.